Aloha, everybody. It's Moana here on the Moana Nui podcast for today's Mana Bomb segment. And I am joined by
Hello, my kako. It's me, Kanoilani Davis of Mana Bombs, powered by Pomahina Design.
Awesome. Well, we are so glad to be here with you all today for episode 3. And today's Mana Bomb is believe their patterns, not their words. And so with this one, whew,
I'm wondering if this even triggered people when they read it.
oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did.
Well, let's just get into it then. Believe their patterns, not their words. I woke up in the morning. I think I just come back from traveling, and it's really interesting because patterns can be looked at as negatively, especially when you're in your quote unquote healing journey. I'm going to do this quote unquote because I know people who have been on their quote unquote healing journey for way too long. And it could perhaps be because of some of those patterns. But let's be honest, like patterns are not necessarily a bad thing. And I think that was one of that was the point in this mana bomb, was to acknowledge that patterns are just indicators. They're the things that help us understand the consistency in the way we walk, or even the predictability of the way we move. If you were to observe someone or something over and over and over again, you kind of can already predict the outcome. And that's what the patterns do for us. It helps us actually, patterns create, in my mind, in the way I was taught, patterns create stability and security. Now, how we use them, that's a whole different story. In the negative way, right? We see these patterns happen over and over again, because I always like to say that we're creatures of comfort. We find comfort in the things that we're used to. So if you've been abused, if you've been talked down to, if you've been controlled, your yearning, quote unquote, healing journey is to get out of that system. But what happens is, that's all. If you've never experienced anything other than that, that's all you know. And so then you go back to that constantly and find the comfort in that chaos. And I think those patterns are what dictates the reasons why we are constantly learning to heal. Whereas if you can say, this is a pattern, I need to break that. When that uncomfortable moment happens, do we take the step to be more uncomfortable, or do we take that step to go, I don't know if I can handle this. I'm afraid. I don't feel good. I'm going to go to the security of patterns and feel comfortable again, even though I don't feel comfortable. So that's the irony in this healing journey that I constantly have been observing in this work, is the irony in our own health and well-being. We're actually contributing to our suffering than we are to our health and our optimal health. So I wanted to put that in there first, but then on the counter end of that, it's also talking about those people who are unseen, who are doing the work, who are seeing those patterns, who may not utilize manipulation in regards to getting their way or doing things for ego. That there are people who have these patterns in silence, and that they don't get acknowledged, they don't get recognized, and you don't see them pushing through those adversities and living within these resiliences so that they can thrive. And they walk silently, but they're pushing and they're moving. And those are usually the go-getters. Those are the ones that are breaking barriers. Those are the ones that are like, their trajectory is to move forward, to go up and to elevate. And sometimes they're able to stop and take people with them. Or sometimes they beat that space that they just want to keep going. But those people exist. And so those are those patterns in which they go, okay, I see a pattern that I don't want to get into, so I'm going to break that pattern and I'm going to keep going. Oh, here comes another pattern. I don't want to go through that. I'm going to break through that one. I'm going to create a new pattern. So that's another irony, is like, actually patterns help you as long as you can acknowledge and receive them. So yeah, that mana hopefully didn't trigger people into feeling like, are you talking to me? Is that me that has that? Or I would hope that mana bombs actually inspire people to kind of follow or move forward in their path. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think either way that you look at it, kind of like what we talked about on other episodes, is it really speaks to the self-awareness piece of, like you mentioned, when you're falling into a old pattern, do you recognize it? Can you snap yourself out of it, right? Like,
People recognize it. Let's be very clear. They know when they're messing up. You know what I mean? They know when they're going back to old bad habits. They
yeah.
know it and they accepted it. But the question is not, do you know? And I don't even question people's self-awareness. I think people are fully aware of what they're doing. I think saying that you're not aware is an excuse, but I think people are fully aware of what they're doing. Now the question is where's your integrity for yourself at the end of the day?
Yeah. Yeah, that is true for sure. I do like how you were emphasizing the positive side too, because I think it's easy for us to read this and automatically go to, oh, here comes the criticism, right? But acknowledging those who have good patterns, have productive patterns, and like you said, a lot of them, they kind of move in silence, right? Like they don't need the recognition. Sometimes people view them as high makamak. It's like, oh, what? They think they're more better than us. No, they just want to stay productive and in a space where it's a clean space, not a toxic space where they got to feel like, ugh. Because then it feels like people are going to drag you down and you don't want to fall into that, especially when you are healed and you've worked so hard to overcome your own inner battles, your own inner demons. You're trying to stay away from the stuff that would pull you back there. But I do have to say, like, when you had originally talked about the positive piece, like, I was trying to think of like examples of people who at least fit this for me. And you were one of the people who, like, I thought of as a person who has positive patterns, productive patterns, like, and are consistent in their work, in backing up their actions. I mean, their words with action. Sometimes no need to even say the words, just do the action. And just a lot of the types of leaders that I respect are these people. And I think we often, because a lot of the messages they get thrown at us can be negative, that we don't uplift and celebrate the people who are doing the work, who are out here leading and moving themselves and the people around them forward in a positive direction. So I just wanted to mahalo all of those people. If this is you listening to the podcast, that we need more people like you, and we mahalo you fully, mahalo piha, for the work that you are doing and for inspiring us, whether we're in a place where we need to break out of patterns that are harming us, or if we're like, we have broken out and we're just trying to move in the right direction. I definitely want to mahalo them, because I don't think they get the recognition that they're most deserving of. You
Yeah, they probably don't look for the recognition, and I'm pretty sure they don't do it for the recognition. I'm
right.
pretty sure that's their personality for sure. And there are they're the unheard and the unseen, whether they choose to be that way or not. It usually falls into those spaces. We can think about our children, like as parents. If you're a parent out there, you may have multiple children. Your attention goes to the one who kind of just has that same pattern, being naughty all the time, getting in trouble in school, or like breaking things, or like just not listening and always getting grounded. The one that just doesn't and just does their thing, is pretty legit in the house, they get the least amount of attention. It's a part of manipulation, to be honest with you, regarding those patterns. Once you understand, like through your ego and the capacity in which you can gain more control on those negative patterns. A lot of the times that comes from a place of needing to be seen, needing to be heard, and needing to feel valued, because somewhere in your life, whether it be from childhood, you weren't. And so that pattern of being in chaotic spaces allows you to always be seen, whether that's the victimhood that in which you play in, whether that's even the very egotistical foundation we have to. And let me just preface too, there's good ego and bad ego. Like there's always good and bad of everything. Like there's good manipulation and there's bad manipulation. So I don't want to ever think that manipulation and ego is a negative thing. There are positive ways of using it as long as we use it for good. But at the end of the day, I think that's a good example when we watch our children, how they act, what their lavena is, because that's what's the indicator that might be something they would use in the future. And how do we get ahead of that so that we can better create better spaces for them as adults, but then also look at them as a reflection of where we're at in our lives, and see how that fits within our healing journey. How do we fix some of that? And I will share, Moana, like being from a place where being from a abusive relationship with a narcissist, with a gaslighter, like that was the most craziest thing I had ever encountered in my life. And it was hard to get out of that. It truly was. And I saw the pattern. I could acknowledge I should not be here, but I was leaning on hope. Yeah, I was leaning on that. Like, no, because we see the good in others. Like, no, it's going to change. Oh, no, he says it's going to change. Oh, no, he loves me. Oh, no, da, 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 da. And then you're like, what the hell is going on? And we're back again in that pattern again. Or some people would say like, oh, Kanoa, you can't be by yourself. And I was like, that's not the case. That's not the case. And so I ended up, what I like to do is when people acknowledge these things in me, I really take it into account. And then I go, okay, let me see if that is true. Let me check. I've been single for over 1.5 years now, and I love it. Life is great. I don't need anybody. But who am I proving it to? Does it matter? Right. Nobody. No, it doesn't matter. It only matters to you. But if that's the catalyst, if you're a person like me who likes to be challenged, tell me I can. I'm going. That's the kind of stuff I need. I need somebody to tell me like you're worthless and you can. Oh yeah, I'll go show you my worth. And then boom. That's actually my medicine. I thrive on shit talkers. Like I love shit talkers because they actually push me to be better. Whereas I don't use them to pull me down. So that's their patterns too, projection of negativity and judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Ooh, them shit talkers. Yeah, I used to be like that too. But now I just like, I don't know. I think it's just because I getting older. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I cannot even respond because like I just don't have the energy for it. I'm like, whatever. And then earlier you mentioned what I was going to say now. Who like to be loud and they need to be heard, and those kind of people, so nails.
Yeah. Yeah, they cause havoc. But see, when you get to this side of like understanding why they're like that, see, like remember I told you there's good and bad. So like when you see people who are like, and you can be like how you just said, like just like I don't have time for that. You've won. It doesn't matter how long. Like let them exhaust all of that mana. Let them exhaust all of that energy, and then when they call, you've already moved 2 steps ahead. They're still right there because that's their pattern. They just in circles. They just go in these circles. They follow. They chase their tail. They're like in a what do you call those Ferris wheels? Like so. Like it's literally useless. But we need those people in this world, and I'm gonna tell you why we need those people in this world. Those people wake up other people. They do.
I was gonna say, they make us look sane.
That's what reality TV is for. Also, this podcast. They also make us look sane. But I mean, I know I'm like that. When I used to fight in arguments, I get loud. I get loud. Like if you go come at me, I will get loud. And before you know it, you have like 2 barking dogs. Nobody understands what they're saying. You cannot hear nothing. I get it. But that's because I needed to be heard, but not realizing if I had, and this is where I had to learn that as I got older, calm yourself down, Kanoi. Talk softly. Because why? People need to listen in order to hear you. That made a big difference. That's actually how I got out of the narcissistic relationship, was because I was done yelling already. Me and him was going back and forth, yelling. I was right. He made my world crazy. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I'm trying to make sense of it. And I'm yelling, trying to make sense of it. And then at one point I realized I'm like, this is pointless. I know what you're doing to me. I'm not going to fight it anymore. So then I would shut down. I would just kind of shut down, or I would just talk. And I would just talk like this.
Yeah.
And before you know it, he had to listen. He had to be like, what? And I may be talking shit from like this level of volume, but you got to lean in and listen. So,
that is hard though.
Yeah. It is hard.
It's hard when you're like, especially if you're passionate about something. But that's something I have had to work on myself too, because I'm the same way. Like when I get passionate, I get loud, but then I'm like, okay, Moana, especially when, certain people, like they get intimidated just by the look of us, forget us getting nuts. So you got to calm yourself down so they can actually hear what you say. and they're
Yeah.
not scared of you. They're not running away.
Girl,
They need to hear your message. But yeah, no, that is definitely self control about issues that you're passionate about. Whew.
period. Just period. Self-control, everything, mind, body, and soul. And and also remember what I told you earlier. Their patterns are a sense of security, one,
Mhm.
right? Because if there's, you said it earlier too, consistency, pattern, boundaries, those types of things, rules, discipline, those types of things create security. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. It doesn't matter because those things are the things that keep us safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so here, remember I told you using it for good or bad. Now, if I observed you long enough and I saw your patterns, I just know how to break them. It's easy. But instead of breaking them to stop you from them, I just push you over the edge and you break yourself. So like understand. So I use that method in when I do ho'amana with people. Is I find I just pay attention, I watch their patterns, I watch what they say and watch how they use, and then I amplify it on them. You like jump, jump, cool. And it's not reverse psychology. I want you to jump because you're gonna, because you have the ego, but it can break you right there. I needed to see what your capacity of how you can handle things. Where does that lie? Where is your vulnerable state? And then I can work on you. Because once we break that pattern, then we can work on you. And then you know you're safe because I didn't do it to harm you or do anything egotistically. I just needed to gauge where that was. Then we can work together. But I think people who use it for bad will find ways to hurt you, take from you, and control you. So you have to be very, very careful with our patterns. Like you don't want them to know your pattern. There's this one meme where like, you know how the aunties like to take off the slipper and throw it at you. Like that's an old school way of doing things, right? You go take off my slipper and I go throw it at you. So you get that one kid who gonna run straight and auntie get on good aim and she can catch you from the back of your head with no problem, right? But then you get that one kid who understands how auntie's arm throws. So he runs in the zigzag pattern, right? And so auntie cannot catch him because he's running all over the place. That's the idea of understanding. Like you got to be careful with your patterns because it's not only for your sake and your own health and well-being. You have to understand there's people who are going to watch it and manipulate it and use you. Yeah.
Definitely.
Predictors.
That's so true, especially in relationships.
It's a tactic. It's a literal tactic that is used physically, mentally, emotionally in relationships, friendships, money, the car salesman, it's
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, those patterns can like everything else, right? There's good and there's bad. Two flip sides of it, and understanding how to use it, when to use it, and how to break it.
Yeah. I want to share something though that within our culture, why patterns are so powerful and why Hawaiians and Kanaka Maoli looked at patterns as so powerful. You'll see that in a lot of our chants and a lot of our mele and a lot of our designs. And the reason for that is its continuity. On certain chants, if you were to ever observe some of the chants, you'll see that there's a pattern in which they speak it, the chant or the oli. You'll even see a pattern in the way they use words, whether they're going from how they use the words. When you can start to see with a different perspective, you'll realize that they created these patterns, and these patterns were the means to help memorize. I have heard Kumu say like that's a way of honoring. You repeat it 2-3 times or 3 times or something. You're honoring because you're setting that foundation over and over. Your ho'opa'ada's foundation. I've heard all kinds of things, but based off of my own personal experience in the usage of this, it does help to memorize. It does help to ho'opa'a the mind and that feeling that you have when you're doing it, so you can remember in the memorization of that. And also when you kilo the elements, and that's what I've also learned, anything that happens more than 3 times, you can start to gauge what the next step is. You can start to have that predictability in the culture. And then also the patterns allow us to know what type of, especially if you kilo like the elements, certain patterns that happen will help us gauge what's coming, whether it's rain, whether it's wind, whether it's an earthquake. If you know these certain patterns, something's going to happen after that. And you can better prepare yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. patterns can be super helpful, especially for learning too. Like especially if you're learning chants and things like that. If you understand the pattern in the chant, you can be like, okay, I get part of the verse because I know what's coming.
That's right. The predictability and the security is that it's coming, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's like,
ironic.
okay, now we honor and
Yeah.
yeah, no, 100%. I love that part about our Oli, and it does give safety and security. Like, okay, I know a little bit. I'm still learning, but I know some, and I'm just building upon that Ike towards the next steps. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So believe in the patterns, like truly believe in it. They don't lie. If somebody's telling you one thing, but they're doing another thing, better to pay attention and watch what they're doing versus what they're selling, because then you can better gauge what that means for your future connection or even the work that you're doing. So, but there are moments where those patterns are a little bit off, and that's fine too. But there is a sense of predictability that feels very safe, and if it's not safe, then that's something that, okay, like if you come home and you're in a bad mood and he doesn't like that and he's going to beat you because you're in a bad mood, you might want to think about, you're going to change your pattern, right? You're going to come in a good mood, and that's the manipulation is now that they have control over you based off of their own personal pattern. So like when you train a dog, it literally is the same thing. It's a tactic. It's a tactic. A pattern is a tactic. So how do you use it for good and not for bad?
Gotcha. Yep. So again, believe their patterns, not their words. Both sides of that coin. All
That's it
right.
for me. Yeah.
Well, that was a good one, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, engage us in the comments.
Well, thank you so much, Moana and Moana Nui podcast. Signing off from the island of Molokai Nui Ahina. It's me, Kunoy Lani Davis of Moana Bombs, powered by Pomahina Designs.
All right. And I'm Moana, signing off from Moana Nui podcast. Take care, everybody. Mālama pono. Hui ho.
Who you?